Welcome back to Next Shift with Rick Wagan. Tonight is the post-game show after a 6-3 loss for the Montreal Canadiens against the Washington Capitals. Tonight, the Montreal Canadiens started Caden Primo. They didn't dress Jackeye nor Pizzetta, and the team was made up of a different first line with Heineman joining Caulfield and Suzuki. In the first period, the two teams ended up scoreless. There was chances on both sides. I'd say Washington probably had a few more chances. And then they went into the second period scoreless to go 3-3. Washington took an early lead in the second period. They actually scored another goal that was called offside on a shorthanded goal. Montreal got two quick goals back as well from players like Cole Caulfield scored on a 2-on-1 with Hudson, and he took the shot, and then Gallagher scored on the deflection from Lane Hudson. Washington came back with two quick goals of their own to take a 3-2 lead, and then with 2 minutes left, Nick Suzuki had a one-timer goal that was a great pass by David Savard and a nice play by Lane Hudson. So they went into the third period tied 3-3, and the Montreal Canadiens came out and laid an egg. They gave up goals to McMichael, Protas, and eventually Ovechkin got his fifth of the year and first against the Canadiens. The final score was 6-3, and the Montreal Canadiens lose again and give up a ton of goals. That's the game. Here's my commentary. I think I said from the get-go that the Montreal Canadiens were not going to make the playoffs. I was hopeful that they were going to be a better team from last year. I'm looking at the season and I'm looking at what I'm seeing. And what I have seen is some decent progress from players like Caulfield, who's putting the puck in the net. Gooley, who, besides the injuries, has looked very solid. And then you have Lane Hudson, who's outplayed his expectations, at least in his rookie year. You have guys like Suzuki who are getting points. I don't know if they're having as great a start to the season as they ended. And then you have a player like Slafkovsky who is getting some points, had a little injury, is back, only in his third year, has some potential. Other than that, you have players that are playing above their pay grade, I guess you can call it. Players like Evans and Gallagher, and some will say Josh Anderson. I think he had a low bar from last year to improve. And then you have players like Armia and Evans and Newhook and Dvorak that just aren't playing up to par. And to be honest, I'm not feeling like Matheson is playing great, and Savard, although he's blocking shots, he looks slow out there. Barron just came back from a concussion, probably an upper body injury. Didn't look good. Struble, he's okay as a 6th or 7th or 8th defenseman. What I realized tonight, and I didn't mention Doc, did I? Doc is disappointing. I was hoping he would be at the same level as a Suzuki or Caulfield. He looked good on the couple of games that he played on that line, and maybe that's where he needs to play. But I was really thinking about the lineup and the team and expectations. And when you expect a team to compete and be in the mix in the playoffs, you expect them to, have players that can be in their proper seats. And what I mean by that is that the Canadiens have probably 6 or 7 players in their lineup tonight that if they continue to progress and the team continues to bring in their prospects and most likely brings in free agents or makes trades for some veteran players in the next 2, 3, 4 years, that when the Canadiens are ready to really compete and complete not only for the playoffs, but compete for the Stanley Cup, 6, maybe 7 of the players that played tonight will be on the team. I can name them for you. I think Suzuki. I think Caulfield. I think Slafkovsky, but you'll never know. I think Hudson. I'm going down the list. Gooley and maybe Doc. Montembeault could possibly be the backup behind the Fowler. You're missing players like Demidov. You're missing players like Hage. Maybe a Owen Beck, maybe a Kapanen. Most likely, think of players like Monahan and Toffoli and Corey Perry and Mark Stahl and Jordan Stahl. You think of those types of players, that's who they're going to have to fill their lineup with in 3 to 4 years. I love Evans. He's not going to be on this team. Matheson's not going to be on this team. Gallagher's not going to be on this team. Anderson's not going to be on this team. Dvorak may not make it to halfway through this year. Armia's not going to be on this team. Savard is not going to be on this team. Newhook, possibly a fourth liner, possibly a scratch kind of player. Heineman, maybe not. And then Struble, maybe not. Barron's not going to be on this team. Pizzetta's not going to be on this team. And I don't think Jack Guy is going to be on this team, but we never know. Definitely not Harvey Pinard and probably not Laine by that point. So definitely not Caden Primo. So teams, as Montreal Canadiens followers, this team is not the team that's going to take this Canadiens to the next level. There are core players, 6 or 7, and the rest of the players, 13, 14, 15, will not be in Canadiens uniforms. It's going to be a different team when this team is really in the mix. Really, when I talk about in the mix, not to just make the playoffs, but to compete. So I guess what I'm saying is the rebuild is far from over. You know, we took a look at the New York Rangers. It took them about 4 or 5 years to actually compete and about 7 years to become a team that won the President's Trophy. Buffalo's taking forever. I don't think they'll ever get there. Ottawa taking forever. I don't think you'll ever get there. But if you look at teams like Chicago and Pittsburgh and even Edmonton, it takes a long time. And this team is building. It's still rebuilding. They should be better. They're not going to be. What you have to hope for now is that the players that matter, the 6 or 7 guys that I mentioned, get better. And as long as they improve and the team, doesn't finish last, and you know what, even if they finish last and those guys improve, maybe you get a better draft pick and you have a player that can help your team sooner. But this team is not making the playoffs. This team is probably not going to be in the mix. And this team is far away from being a top contending team in the NHL. That being said, Saturday morning at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern, turn on your KHL hockey if you can find it on TV somewhere on your computer. And there's a young kid named Ivan Demidov who's playing, and he looks to me like an elite superstar. And I'm not just saying that. I think he is Hudson 2.0 forward, has a lot of the same abilities as McDavid, maybe not the full crazy speed, but he has nice speed. The puck just sticks to his stick. He has high IQ, makes ridiculous passes, has a nice shot. That's what you got to wait for. And you got to wait for players like Slafkovsky to get into his man body and figure it out. And players like Hudson to take it to the next level. And players like Fowler to come on and be maybe the next Carey Price. Those are big maybes. I appreciate that. But that's what it's going to take for the Montreal Canadiens to actually be in the mix. So I think what I'm saying is the Canadiens lost 6-3 tonight. They'll probably lose again next game. I hate to say it. The Montreal Canadiens are playing on Saturday night. Let me just remind myself where they're playing. They're in Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh Penguins just won 2-1 against the Ducks. I watched that game. I thought Cutter Gauthier played a great game, had a nice assist, worked his butt off, got into the overtime and coughed up a puck, just fought a puck. He's in his rookie year, same age as Slafkovsky, but hasn't played in the NHL. But I just want to call out Cutter because he had a really solid game tonight and had a nice assist. So that being said, watching those two teams, and they're both in a similar place. They're rebuilding, and the Montreal Canadiens are still in a rebuild. And that's what we can gather from the first 11 games, is that this team is not ready to be in the mix. And even if they, change their system and play more defensive, it doesn't really matter, because you're not going to really get to the point that it really matters. Now, the players like Caulfield and Suzuki and Slafkovsky and the guys we mentioned, Hudson and Gooley, do not want to learn how to be a losing. And I appreciate that. But at this point, Montreal Canadiens need to develop those players. And the rest of the players, it doesn't really matter. They should win. They should have a winning culture. But at this point, it's about developing those 6 or 7 guys that are going to be here in 3 to 4 years. And, work on the prospects that are going to get here. And ultimately, think about who you're going to trade and fill the gaps when the contracts of Gallagher, Anderson, Dvorak, Armia, Matheson, Savard, all these contracts will be gone. So all in all, what I'll have to say is it was a rough game, another rough game. We'll probably see another rough game on Saturday against Pittsburgh. But, looking forward to the future with 6 or 7 of these guys. Also looking forward to the future with minus 14 of these guys. And some of them are good hockey players. Like I said, I like Evans. Matheson does some good things. Savard is a solid player. There's some good players on this team, but not the team that's going to bring this team to the cup. So that's it for me. That's it for Next Shift for tonight. We'll talk to you guys on either tomorrow or Saturday. And Saturday it's Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. Looking forward to that game, seeing what happens, but not as optimistic about the season. So that's it for me. That's it for Next Shift. Suzuki does not suck. Talk to you guys soon.